What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about Hollywood was a lie? Right now, as you're reading this, Hollywood is in full-blown panic mode. Why? Because two men, Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel, are about to do something that no one expected. They're going to expose the industry's deepest, darkest secrets, and this time, nothing is going to stop them. Get ready for the truth like you've never seen it before. What if I told you that some of your darkest nightmares weren't just figments of imagination, but chilling, horrifying realities? For years, the deepest, most sinister corners of Hollywood have remained shrouded in secrecy. The very nightmares you thought were too outrageous to be true, the stories you dismissed as too wild to believe, were never fiction. They were the painful, shocking truths that have been buried beneath layers of lies and manipulation. Epstein Island isn't the only place where corruption and exploitation thrive. Tim Ballard, a relentless warrior in the fight against human trafficking, has uncovered just a tiny fraction of a far more extensive operation that spans the globe. There are other islands, other networks, and they've been running under our noses, operating with impunity for decades. And now, the silence is starting to break. For far too long, the world has been kept in the dark, denied the truth about these monstrous operations. What was once carefully concealed, whispered about behind closed doors, is now beginning to surface. The truth is creeping its way into the light, piece by piece, threatening to expose everything. Hollywood, with its glitz and glamour, had one ironclad rule. From the top moguls like Rupert Murdoch at Fox to every major studio executive, if you so much as think about shedding light on this story, you're finished. The threats weren't whispers in the wind. They were brutal, loud, and unyielding. You'll be erased. Your career, over. You'll be destroyed in ways you can't even imagine. Anyone who dared to get close to the truth, those brave enough to ask questions, those who tried to shine a light on the darkness surrounding this world, were quickly silenced. Directors, studios, actors, everyone who tried to expose the ugly reality lurking beneath the surface was crushed, pushed aside, forced into submission. But now something has changed. The narrative is shifting. Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel, two men who have risked everything for speaking the truth, are no longer just voicing their concerns. They're no longer sitting idly by, hoping that someone else will take the mantle of justice. They're taking action. And here's the twist that no one could have predicted. They're not just making a movie, they're about to shatter Hollywood's carefully constructed facade. They're about to expose its darkest, most well-guarded secrets on the big screen for the entire world to see. They're going to name names. Big names. The names you know, the names you trust. Names you've seen linked to the Epstein files. Those names are about to be brought into the open, where they can no longer hide in the shadows. Hollywood isn't just nervous anymore. It's in full-blown panic mode. The very foundation of an industry built on lies and manipulation is about to be cracked wide open. The people who have spent decades weaving this web of deception, the people who have controlled the narrative with their wealth, power, and influence, are now realizing that their grip is slipping. The walls they've built to protect themselves from the truth are beginning to crumble, and they are terrified. This is no longer just about one film, one documentary, one set of whistleblowers. This is about something much larger, something that has been building for years, step by step. The film that Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel are creating is more than just entertainment. It's a reckoning. A reckoning that will lay bare the darkest secrets of Hollywood's elite and force the world to face the reality they've been running from. For too long, the truth has been ignored, brushed aside, and covered up. But now, the world is about to find out just how deep the corruption goes, and there's no turning back. Hollywood, for all its glittering facades, is about to be exposed for what it truly is. A system that thrives on manipulation, power, and darkness. The names you've trusted, the people you've admired, have been living in the shadows for far too long. They can no longer escape the spotlight. Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel have made it their mission to ensure that the truth is not only told, but heard, seen, and felt by everyone. And this time, Hollywood's iron grip on the narrative is about to be broken for good. Today, we are about to reveal why this moment is so monumental. Two men with one shared mission, and the entire entertainment industry is on edge. Let's set the stage for you. It's 2026. The Epstein files have finally been made public. No more redactions. No more hidden texts buried deep in the ark. Hives, those secrets, the ones they thought were locked away forever, have been copied, pasted, and scattered across the internet. The truth has come crashing into the light. Attorney General Pam Bondi has submitted over 300 names to Congress, names that cannot be ignored. These aren't just faceless figures. They're the individuals who are tied to a man who orchestrated one of the most sophisticated and disturbing criminal networks the modern world has ever seen. These names span the powerful and the privileged. Politicians, billionaires, celebrities, each one connected to the sprawling web of Epstein's operations. And as the chaos begins to unravel, two Hollywood figures, two men who have already sacrificed so much, quietly announce their most daring move yet. They're joining forces to make a film that will expose everything. And now they're fighting back, not with whispers, but with a blockbuster movie that could change everything. Hollywood made one thing abundantly clear: if you dare to touch this story, you're done. This wasn't a quiet whisper from an independent producer. It was a full-scale, coordinated warning coming straight from the top of the industry. The message was clear and unambiguous. Touch this film and your career will be finished. But Jim Caviezel didn't back down. He didn't flinch. And when he stepped into that fire, Mel Gibson and the entire team followed suit, walking straight into the storm with their eyes wide open, fully aware of the immense risks they were taking. For Caviezel, this wasn't just a film project. It was a deeply personal, spiritual mission. He saw children as the embodiment of purity and innocence, something akin to God's own creation. And because of that, he understood that the devil had always targeted them. Since the time of Pharaoh, through Herod, and now in our present day, the target has always been the same: innocence. When Sound of Freedom finally hit theaters, something extraordinary happened, something that no one could have predicted. At a crucial emotional moment in the film, a surge of energy swept over the audience. They spontaneously began calling out Epstein's Island. It wasn't part of the script. It wasn't planned or staged. It was as if the film, in all its raw power, unlocked something deep within the collective consciousness of those watching. It sparked something that had been buried for too long. And in that moment, Caviezel realized this was no longer just a film. It was a movement. The audience didn't need to be told anything new. They had already known the truth. They had already sensed the connection between what they saw on the screen and the deep, disturbing truths they had been feeling for years. The film wasn't revealing something unfamiliar. It was giving them permission to voice aloud what had been silenced in their hearts and minds. This right here is exactly why the new film with Mel Gibson terrifies Hollywood. Because Sound of Freedom was set in distant lands, about foreign cartels and far-off countries, geographical external issues that felt removed from the everyday lives of the audience. It was horrific, yes, but it wasn't as deeply personal. But this new film, this is different. This film is about Epstein's Island itself, the heart of the scandal. It's not some far-flung story about foreign lands or faceless criminals. This story is domestic. It's real. It's happening right under our noses. It's about names already in public records. It's about people we know, people we trust, whose involvement in this dark world has already been documented. This isn't speculation, it's evidence. And that, above all, is what Hollywood fears the most. The truth, once fully revealed, will change everything. Mel Gibson, Jim Caviezel. These are the same men whose careers have been threatened, whose reputations have been viciously attacked, whose livelihoods have been torn apart, all for daring to ask the uncomfortable questions that the powerful never wanted answered. They have already stood on the front lines with everything on the line. And now, they are doing something no one anticipated. They're making a movie that will not fade into obscurity. This isn't some obscure indie documentary that disappears into the cracks of a late-night streaming platform. This isn't a film that will be buried and forgotten. No, this is going to be a full-scale production, a blockbuster, a force of nature that will expose the truth in a way that Sound of Freedom could never accomplish. This new film won't just brush the surface of the trafficking networks. It will dive deeper. It will pull back the curtain and show you the unfiltered reality of what happened on Epstein's Island. Take a moment to think about that. The real stories, not just the flight logs, not just the black books and depositions that have been floating in the ether for years. This film will show you the harrowing truth about what was done to those children, the ones who suffered unimaginable horrors. Who was behind it? Who authorized these atrocities? Who was allowed to benefit from these twisted operations? And most importantly, who has been protected from justice for decades, hiding behind walls of power, money, and influence? This film will expose it all. The names, the faces, the truth that's been buried for too long. The time for silence is over. The reckoning has arrived. Before we dive into the names, before the bombshells come crashing down, let's take a moment to step back and understand how we even arrived at this pivotal point. This didn't begin with a film announcement or a sudden shift in Hollywood's direction. It started with two men who dared to speak the truth when no one else would. Men who spent years being ridiculed, dismissed, and blacklisted for simply asking questions that everyone else was too afraid to pose. Mel Gibson wasn't always the controversial figure that many see him as today. Once upon a time, he was a titan in Hollywood, a man who had the world at his feet. He directed Braveheart, starred in Lethal Weapon, and was a revered king of the industry. He had it all. But then, something changed. Hollywood isn't like the rest of the world. When you arrive from the outside, fresh-faced and full of hope, they welcome you with open arms. At first, everything seems golden. People compliment you, praise your potential, tell you that you're destined for greatness. It's intoxicating. But as time goes on, the truth begins to reveal itself. Beneath the glitz and glamour, something darker lurks. The industry doesn't just operate on talent and merit. There's a deeper system at work, one that controls, manipulates, and drives its own agenda. No matter how firm your convictions, how strong your character, the toxic influence of Hollywood starts to take root. And that's when Mel Gibson's paranoia kicked in. He started asking questions, the kind of questions that no one in Hollywood wanted answered. The unspoken rule in Tinseltown is simple: don't ask the questions you're not supposed to ask. What Mel Gibson realized was chilling. His worst fears, the ones that had kept him up at night, were not the product of an overactive imagination. They were the ugly truth. What he had suspected, what he had felt deep in his bones, was far more than just paranoia. It was real. Hollywood wasn't just a dream factory. It was a machine designed to conceal darkness, to protect the elite, to keep the most horrifying truths buried beneath the surface. And when Hollywood realized that Gibson wasn't going to be silent, that he wasn't going to play by their rules, they took action. In 2006, they used a traffic stop in Malibu as the perfect excuse to publicly destroy him. For years, there have been whispers that the incident was deliberately amplified to push him out of the industry. They couldn't let him speak the truth. Gibson knew too much. He knew about the connections between Hollywood's most powerful players and Jeffrey Epstein's criminal network. And instead of allowing him to continue speaking out, they buried him. He retreated to Australia, trying to escape the chaos and madness of it all. But he didn't stay down for long. Mel Gibson didn't just disappear into the background. He came back not defeated, but with a renewed sense of purpose. He came back as a whistleblower, and right beside him, standing shoulder to shoulder, was Jim Caviezel, the soldier who walked straight into enemy fire and somehow survived. Caviezel, too, had seen the darkness firsthand, and he wasn't about to back down either. And then came Sound of Freedom, the film that was made 5 years before it was ever released. It was a powerful story, one that challenged the status quo, exposing the horrors of human trafficking. But when Disney acquired Fox, they quietly buried the film, afraid of the repercussions. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all the major streaming platforms refused to promote it, to give it the attention it deserved. But despite the odds, the film managed to find its audience. It was finally allowed to be seen, and when it was, it made over $200 million at the box office. A massive success. A message to Hollywood that the truth, no matter how hard it is to swallow, cannot be silenced forever. That's where we are now. 2 men, 1 mission, and a world that's finally waking up to the darkness they've been trying to ignore for so long. Hollywood may have tried to bury them, but now they've got a platform. And this time, the truth will not be contained. The new film won't be relying on rumors or speculation. Instead, it will be working from documented, concrete evidence already made public. In February 2026, Attorney General Pam Bondi submitted over 300 names to Congress. And that's just the names they confirmed. The network was far larger. Names like Jay-Z, Naomi Campbell, Bill Clinton, and even Bill Gates are tied to the Epstein files, names that once seemed untouchable. It's time for those names to be exposed. The new film isn't just Ano. They're conspiracy theory. It's a documentary that will lay bare the facts, facts that are already sitting in federal files, waiting to be acknowledged. Hollywood's elite spent decades building a system of protection, a web of silence and mutual destruction. Everyone had dirt on someone else, and that kept the machine running smoothly. But now, Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel are walking into that fire, fully aware of the risk, and they're about to bring it all down. This is the final piece in the puzzle. The system is about to be torn apart. Hollywood made one thing abundantly clear: if you dare to touch this story, you're done. This wasn't a quiet whisper from an independent producer. It was a full-scale, coordinated warning coming straight from the top of the industry. The message was clear and unambiguous. Touch this film and your career will be finished. But Jim Caviezel didn't back down. He didn't flinch. And when he stepped into that fire, Mel Gibson and the entire team followed suit, walking straight into the storm with their eyes wide open, fully aware of the immense risks they were taking. For Caviezel, this wasn't just a film project. It was a deeply personal, spiritual mission. He saw children as the embodiment of purity and innocence, something akin to God's own creation. And because of that, he understood that the devil had always targeted them. Since the time of Pharaoh, through Herod, and now in our present day, the target has always been the same: innocence. When Sound of Freedom finally hit theaters, something extraordinary happened, something that no one could have predicted. At a crucial emotional moment in the film, a surge of energy swept over the audience. They spontaneously began calling out Epstein's Island. It wasn't part of the script. It wasn't planned or staged. It was as if the film, in all its raw power, unlocked something deep within the collective consciousness of those watching. It sparked something that had been buried for too long. And in that moment, Caviezel realized this was no longer just a film. It was a movement. The audience didn't need to be told anything new. They had already known the truth. They had already sensed the connection between what they saw on the screen and the deep, disturbing truths they had been feeling for years. The film wasn't revealing something unfamiliar. It was giving them permission to voice aloud what had been silenced in their hearts and minds. This right here is exactly why the new film with Mel Gibson terrifies Hollywood. Because Sound of Freedom was set in distant lands, about foreign cartels and far-off countries, geographical external issues that felt removed from the everyday lives of the audience. It was horrific, yes, but it wasn't as deeply personal. But this new film, this is different. This film is about Epstein's Island itself, the heart of the scandal. It's not some far-flung story about foreign lands or faceless criminals. This story is domestic. It's real. It's happening right under our noses. It's about names already in public records. It's about people we know, people we trust, whose involvement in this dark world has already been documented. This isn't speculation, it's evidence. And that, above all, is what Hollywood fears the most. The truth, once fully revealed, will change everything. Now that you know the truth, the real question is, are you ready to be part of the change? The revolution has already begun and the truth is unstoppable. Don't just sit on the sidelines, join the movement. Share this message, spread the word, and help expose the secrets they've been hiding for so long. Comment below with your thoughts and tell us which names you think will be revealed in the next chapter of this ongoing battle for justice. Stay tuned, because the story is far from over.